Guys, welcome to Broke Teachers Travel. I'm Marnie,
And I'm Jordan.
and today we are talking about traveling with food allergies and intolerances. This is something
Absolutely.
that's kind of new to us, but we're learning about it.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, as crazy as it sounds, it is possible. I
Yes.
just traveled to Nashville with my husband to go see the Jonas Brothers, and it was actually a lot easier. And one thing I will say is we live in a small town, so I think it's a little bit harder whenever you come home in comparison to going out into a big city like Nashville or just like anywhere that's bigger than where we live. And there are a lot more options for you, and people are very, very accommodating.
I agree with that. I think it actually is harder in the small areas that we live in versus going
Right.
somewhere bigger where there are so many more options for restaurants and grocery stores and things like that. I think it makes a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. So one thing I would say is to pack your own snacks. You kind of never know if they're going to have an option available for where you're going. I know, like right when we were leaving home, the only place that had anything was Wendy's, but it wasn't lunchtime yet. So
Oh,
it was very difficult because like a lot of places like they do have options, but we were heading on the road immediately on a Sunday morning, and everything on Sundays, it opens a little bit later in the day. So I went through Wendy's and I was like, hey, can I get like a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant or whatever I got, but just like without the croissant? Is there any way like I could do that? I mean, I didn't know what to do. So I brought my own tortillas and I reached into the back seat into my lunchbox, and my husband was like, girl, what are you doing? And I just put out like some gluten-free tortillas and put it in there. But like that is one of those things that is a lifesaver, is bringing your own snacks, bringing your own food, because like I said, you never know if they're going to be able to accommodate you where you're going.
yeah, exactly. And you bring up a good point about that. If you know you're going through a drive-through, bring your own tortilla shells or bring your own hamburger buns, just a couple. And that way you have them on hand and you can basically eat a lot of places there unless it's a true celiac event.
Right.
It can't touch anything else in. But if it's just an intolerance or something, and you're able to do that or order it without the bun or the tortilla, whatever it comes with, then that can really be a lifesaver.
Oh, absolutely. And I will say this too. If you do have a food allergy and you are packing your own snacks or foods to take with you, please be sure do not bring that in that restaurant with you.
No.
And I mean, like if you know that they're not gonna have whatever, just ask like, do you have something that I could eat? What do you recommend for people who have this? Because personally speaking, I've got more than just like a gluten intolerance. I've got other food allergies I've been dealing with for a long time. And I think that's just been something, is just being diligent and being like making sure that you're asking, hey, is there a way for you to accommodate me?
Yes, and some of the
Because they're so
restaurants
sweet and they will do it.
might even say you're welcome to bring in something
Right. Oh,
like a bun
absolutely.
or a tortilla wrap or something like that. Some of them will absolutely, but you just need to ask.
Right. And some of them as well, one thing to keep in mind is that when you're traveling, you need to accommodate in your budget to pay a little bit more for that food. I know at Chick-fil-A, I think they charge like a dollar or two extra for like a gluten-free bun, where like my husband and I went to a local restaurant, like local to where we live, and it was like a 50 cents upcharge, which is like, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that little bit of savings is quite a big difference on a big meal.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing you need to do when you're traveling is check out the menus of restaurants where you're going or along the way. Check them out online because that can be very helpful. You'll know in advance what you can and can't eat. And some restaurants, they don't always have the symbols on the menus, especially for things like gluten free or peanut free, things like that. But if you ask, most of the time they are able to accommodate you and they can help you figure things out. They can say,
Right.
they may even go as far as saying, we'll set this aside or we'll make this, separately from everything else to help you.
Right. And I mean, like, my husband works in the food industry. And where he, like, I mean, he works at Papa John's, and the hard thing with that is that, it's not a celiac safe place. They give you that warning in advance. And I would say, I mean, he immediately told me whenever I found out that I needed to go gluten free, he's like, you have to be able to ask the person at the restaurant. We were going to the Cheesecake Factory in Nashville, and that place, it's got tons of gluten. Okay. It's got tons of
Oh,
gluten.
yeah.
But what you can do is you can tell them, hey, I'm gluten free. What do you have? And I did that. And sure enough, the waitress actually showed me there is a little symbol. And I mean, like, let me tell you, I'm brand new to this. So it was very, very difficult to travel like the next day after finding out, like, what do I do in that time? But she told me, like, there's a little symbol that you can actually look for on their menu. And she said it's super small, is why tons of people overlook it. But she said that there's like a little gluten-free symbol. And sure enough, like, I was able to eat pasta. I had a burger. That's two different trips, by the way. I was not that hungry in one sitting. I mean, I probably could have eaten both, but
Yeah.
uh, and then like they even had like gluten-free cheesecakes. And I mean, you can't even tell a lot of the time that that stuff is allergen free that you're
Yes.
eating. But it's so important that you do ask, because they will accommodate to their best of their abilities.
Absolutely, because I mean, it helps them and it keeps customers coming in. So it
Right.
benefits them to do these things. And it's beneficial to us. Like we were talking about, Jordan's gone gluten free and I've gone gluten free. And it's amazing how much we're discovering that is out there and available, even when you travel.
Right. And I will say this too, if you have a food allergy, be sure to discuss that and emphasize that to your waiter or waitress who might be assisting you, because it could be something as simple as like an oil that they're frying something in. And again, that's something like
Yes.
whenever you're going through, what I like to do is I found out I can't eat at a certain restaurant that we try to go to after church sometimes. I mean, like, it's not even we try to go to, we go there every single Wednesday. And now I can't even eat there because, and it was making me sick, but I didn't know why. But I can't eat there because everything is fried in soybean oil. And just being gluten free, it's a little bit harder to deal with that. But thankfully, Chick-fil-A just it's right across the street and they close at 10 o'clock. So, that made that a lot easier. And Chick-fil-A actually has this thing that if you tell them like, oh, I have an allergy, there's a button that they can hit for the kitchen to know, I need to change my gloves, I need to change this, and
Oh,
I need to
wow.
put
I
it
didn't
in a
realize
different
that.
area. Yeah, it was super cool. I found that out one day when we were going through the drive-through. They were like, I will make sure I hit this button for you. And I had no idea about that. I mean, I knew that like their fries and some of the other stuff, like they have gluten-free buns. I knew that, but I didn't
Yes.
realize that they were going to take that and prepare that in a completely different area. So that was really, really helpful on my end to know that my food wasn't being contaminated.
Yes, yes, that is actually amazing. Another thing to think about, stick with safe places.
Oh yeah.
Places, I know we get tired of chain restaurants. I know. But when you're traveling and you do have an allergy or a food intolerance, know your safe places, know the places you can eat and not have to worry about anything, because
Oh,
it can be a game changer for your trip.
and you and I were talking about this earlier. Whenever you travel to like certain countries, they have less issues. I've heard like in particularly with celiac, I've heard like if you go to Italy or somewhere like that, they deal with a lot less I would say like reactions maybe to
Yes.
gluten. If they even have something like an intolerance, they just deal with a lot less than you would
Yes,
in the
and
United States.
it's been, from what I've heard, it possibly has something to do with the chemicals that are sprayed on the wheat in the US. It may not actually, everyone's reaction to it, the intolerances and things, may not actually be the wheat itself. It might be coming from what it's being sprayed with. But they
That's
haven't,
really
they
interesting.
haven't confirmed everything yet, but that's just a theory that's out there. But Italy tends to do things a little more natural and a little differently. And a lot of people have great luck when they travel there.
Right. I've seen like videos and stuff on TikTok, and people are like, I'm a celiac and I'm traveling to Italy, but this is the first time I can have this without me prepping it. And I know I'm safe. And that's just a disclaimer right now, is I'm not saying that everything is gluten free there. So
Oh,
be sure
no.
to ask you have
Yes.
a gluten-free option.
And
And
Italy has come a long way recently in the gluten-free area of things. They have become very educated about it, the restaurants have, and they go above and beyond to help. Now, not all
right,
restaurants, you still have your little local places that haven't, quite caught up yet. They're older restaurants and things, but a lot of the newer restaurants, it's you're good to go. It's
right.
perfectly safe. They're well educated on everything. And they even, from what I've heard, for people who live there who test positive for celiac disease, they actually offer a stipend to help pay for food for
I
those.
saw that the other day. I thought that was so cool
I
because, I
did
mean,
too, because all these children, and that's who it seems to be
right.
targeted towards. Those are the people they're helping. And I thought that's pretty cool.
I think that's so awesome because, I mean, like, I love Kroger so much and I shop there all the time. But like some of the stuff that they have there, it's like a significant upcharge. And it's not just Kroger. I mean, it's all
Oh, it's
stores, it's all
everywhere. It's
restaurants.
anything in
Right.
specialized food,
Right.
you
It
know.
gets pricey. It gets very, very pricey.
Yes.
I wish that they would do that in the US because it is so expensive. And I didn't even really realize it until I started. I mean, gluten-free tortillas, like a regular thing of tortillas with gluten, like $2, okay, $2, $3 max.
Yep.
You get the gluten-free tortillas and suddenly those things are like $8. And
Yes. Yes.
I love tortillas a lot.
Well, they're
So
so versatile. You can do so many
they
things.
are. Mhm, like
But
breakfast or lunch, dinner, whatever.
yes,
But it's a significant price difference for my husband and I when we go to the store now. We've got to just make sure. And I mean, like, it's not even just like tortillas or stuff like that.
oh
I didn't
no,
realize
it's the
that.
flour, it's anything.
Right. Like, I bought cream of mushroom soup and I was trying to figure out because I had made a roast, like, why was I getting so sick? And sure enough, it's in like random little ingredients too. And I was like, hey, mom,
Yes.
where you make this? Figure
It's
this
in
out.
taco seasoning, it's in chili seasoning. You have to learn to make your own.
Right. But I mean, and that's another thing to think about too. Like when you're traveling, do you need to have like a kitchen in your hotel room? That is something to
Yes.
think about if you do have a food allergy, because you might want to prepare food separate before you go out. So do keep that
Yes.
in mind as well, like whenever you're traveling, because it might be worth it to add it onto your hotel.
Absolutely. Or to get an Airbnb or something like that so that you have that ability. That's a good point. You're right about that. And now you were telling me something that you saw about an allergy card. Can you speak
Yes.
to that one
So
too?
I was on TikTok earlier, just kind of seeing like what the new things were. Cause I mean, like I said, I'm getting used to being gluten free and like I've got an avocado allergy and just several other food allergies. And then, I mean, it's hard to eat safely. It is very, very
Yes.
tricky. And I saw this allergy card, and the way that the lady had explained it is like you can go online and order it for whatever you have, but in the language of the country that you're going to, it says, "Hi, I have whatever allergy," for like where you're going in that language. So I thought that was super cool and super, super beneficial.
Yes, it is. I love that idea. And you can just keep a few, in your bag with you, your day bag, and just hand them out if the restaurant, staff doesn't speak English or anything like that, then you have some backup. I love that.
Right.
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
And you can also check social media. Social media is
Right.
your friend in this case. It is awesome because you can check the restaurant's social media and see if they offer accommodations for different allergies and intolerances and things like that. They usually put that stuff out there because they want to let people know.
Right. And I mean, like, there have been restaurants just like here around town that I've gone to recently, and I've been going like the whole time, but I didn't know that I had like a gluten intolerance or whatever. And sure enough, like I went on their website and I was like, because I mean, let me tell you, it's hard being gluten free because you go from eating all like the delicious bread and all that. And I mean, like, you still can have bread, it just has to be gluten free. But you
Right.
go from eating that with not even thinking about it for 2 seconds to changing that. And when you're traveling, it can be really difficult. But like when my husband and I were in Nashville, I wanted the Cheesecake Factory, like I said before, because I had never tried it. And he was like, "Oh, you're not leaving here without trying it." He's like, "I don't care if it's on the last day and we have to stop every 30 minutes on the way home." He's like, "I do not care." I did because there were no rest stops within 30 minutes of
Yeah.
each other. I checked because I wanted to try it. Um, but I went online and like I checked TikTok, I checked Instagram, I checked Twitter, like what are gluten-free things I can get at this restaurant? And I saw it recommended by a like fellow gluten-free person on TikTok. And I'll actually tag her if I can find her information and everything. I will tag her
Yeah.
below. She's got tons of great stuff for traveling with food allergies. And she has been like such a huge help in that. So, and she's actually the one that recommended. I had asked in the live stream, like, what do I do?
Hmm.
And I mean, like, I was brand new to being gluten free. And she said, type in gluten free with Nashville at the end of it or wherever you're traveling to. And there are plenty of options. And I mean, like, Nashville is one of those places. It's got bars, it's got all different kind of scenery. So like you want to check it out for the music, for just
Yes.
like the immersive experience. And sure enough, my husband and I went to Kid Rock's bar and I was able to find something on their menu that was gluten free. And I mean, like you get kind of stuck in the same things like at home for me, like
Yes.
the gluten free pasta, but it's like whenever I'm working with my students, it's like I'm eating little kid food because I'm like, it's the one thing that's gluten free.
Gluten-free, yes.
Right. So like I'll have like gummies and they're like, oh my goodness, you have the same lunch as me. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
But that like seriously, her telling me to kind of look around for like different places has been so beneficial because even just like here locally, I've been able to eat a whole lot more than I even was able to eat before.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too because we have a trip coming up in January in Italy. And so I'm
Right.
going to try to pinpoint some restaurants in advance and see what all I can find. That's great information. I love that.
Right. It was just like honestly so eye-opening because I mean, like I said before, like I'm allergic to avocado as well, which I mean, a lot of people, I mean, there it's a trendy thing now. It is a trendy thing to eat your avocado toast in the
Yes, it
morning. But
is.
now that is just like completely blocked out for me. I can't have the gluten, nor can I have the avocado.
Or glycol.
Or glycol. So, there is not really a whole lot like I can eat, but I've learned that people are super, super accommodating with that. So if you're traveling, don't let that hinder
No.
traveling at all because I mean it is very doable. And I learned that in my first trip, kind of dealing with the huge allergy with that.
Yeah.
And I came home and I would call her after like every meal. I was like, Mom, I was like, you'll never guess what I had. And it was like the best thing. And I couldn't taste the difference in
I
this.
know we
Like,
keep sending each other pictures of things we've made, things we've eaten because we're like, you're not going to believe it's gluten free.
right. I had like a gluten-free burger the other day. I'm like, Mom, when you come here next week, like we are going here, you are eating this. And like that's another thing too. Ask your family to send you pictures of like a menu where they're at, because whenever you go home, you might be able to eat something off that menu, like despite whatever allergy you might have.
Yes.
Because it's not necessarily just gonna be like gluten free. I mean, some people are like super allergic to seasonings and like different
Yes.
seeds and oils and all of that. And I mean, I personally know people who struggle with it, and it's hard because like when we go to camp, I do not know how they accommodate everybody's food allergies because it is
I
so difficult.
I don't understand that either because that's a lot of people to try to accommodate.
Right. But I mean, like, again, you're traveling somewhere. And like, now that I've seen all these like tips and tricks on how to do that, now I can even travel to camp that's like 6 hours away from where I live, knowing that I can do that safely, like just
Yes.
bringing my own food or just by figuring out little things that I can bring with me to accommodate that.
Yes, yes. And we'll even do an upcoming episode on some gluten-free travel snacks that
Right.
we
Oh, for
tried.
sure.
We'll kind of review them for you guys and let you know our thoughts on them and see if they're practical, if they're good, and
Right.
if they're easy to travel with.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Maybe we could do that this week while you're here. Maybe we could just kind of go
Yeah,
out and
that would
see
be fun. We'll get all the
different
snacks.
things.
We've got the
We can go to that gluten-free bakery that's here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm
I'm gonna
definitely
spend way too much money in there. I'm telling you right now,
I
like
know.
my entire paycheck that I just got paid with last week is gonna be gone.
Gone.
And I'm not gonna be sorry about it either because I gotta know if that dressing that they made is good for Thanksgiving because I will be eating that and I don't care what anybody else in this household's eating, but that is what I am eating.
It looks so good in the picture you sent me.
I know. If
Well,
you guys
I think
have any recommendations of things that you have learned over time
yes.
for just traveling with a food allergy, please comment down below. Comment on our Instagram, our Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're following us on social media, wherever you're listening to this podcast, just like make sure to just kind of check in with us and like let us know your thoughts and like where you like to travel to if you have food allergies, because we would love to know. It's difficult right when you're getting started with everything. But thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in and just listening. We love you guys and we hope that you have an amazing week. Bye.
Bye.